Hello everyone. So we're on to the last of the trilogy, the Narnia trilogy. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. That's quite a mouthful. I want to call it like the Dawn Voyage or something. Um, anyway, just getting back to the start. Oh, yeah, sorry, I just ran up the stairs. Got looking forward to doing this. Pause. Okay, I'm just like halfway through the. Oh, actually, no, I should be at the start with the 20th Century Fox logo. Anyway, so before we start, from what we've covered so far, the trilogy is a tad flawed from time to time, but once again, what it has achieved and the general imagination, I think is rather cool. This one I've probably seen the most. Me and others used to rewatch this one a lot on holidays and that. And when watching it, I'm very keen and interested to see how it holds up. So 000, etc. Right at the start, Disney Plus, you can watch this trilogy on, and we'll go in 3, 2, 1, go. I felt like I could have said that whilst the logo was playing, couldn't it? 9 plus, okay. I think this is still a 12 though, because it is quite mature for time to time. Oh, 75th anniversary. This film was 2011? 2012, I'm not sure. Because it's like 2005, then 2008. Yeah, this one came slightly later. And yeah. Oh my god, that nearly matches. Is it like the film's own way to be like, thank you, studio or something? um, it's quite interesting to go for the Dawn Treader as like the next one, but I suppose it does have some ideas which could, do well to finalise Lucy and Edmund's character and expand more on Caspian, so I can see why. And I think like this one has more of a premise. So I don't know what the boy and the horse is like. Oh, well, what was the one in between? Oh no, I think Caspian, then Voyage in book order, in terms of chronology order. Yeah, because there's the chronological order, and there's the book release order, which is a whole heap story, whole new story rather. So we see the area they're in. A couple more years has passed, I think. Yeah, he's pushed aside. Yeah, unfortunately. Oh, he's done well to make himself look older. I don't think he exactly led. Well, probably led alongside the others like Peter, etc. Oh, that starts off a subplot that Lucy has. We'll get to that. So that's how it starts that off. Okay. Yeah. So alongside Edmund trying to join up. So this is like the area they're in, and we can definitely infer this is like later in the, far later in the war. And now we know that they have a cousin. Who knows how many other relatives they have, but still. But yeah, this room kind of shows him off. Looks like he likes to study things. He has the books, and he has his diary as well. And that's where he likes to keep it. I forgot to put my headphones in. Hang on. So he likes to keep things private as well. And despite what happens later on, I don't think anyone reads from his diary. Well, I suppose not. Oh, so that's the parent. Harold and Andati, yeah, they're the parents. And then you said right there is probably a tad defensive, but I think if they're just, it's a bit like sibling rivalry again, just an excuse to fight each other. Oh, cardamom season. Oh yeah, definitely nothing comparable. Oh, she's in America. Okay. Oh yeah, so that's definitely not the same chap as the train station, in the previous film. Mumps. Oh, they're in Cambridge. Okay. Oh no, he says in the room. Okay, yeah, I can see how they would know each other. And that subplot is being brought up again. Yeah, I don't think that Edward knows what to say about that, but no, they're just talking about the painting. I don't think they would have stayed. Well, probably a week or two if they're like, oh, a couple more months. I don't think he just even knows what the word Narnia means. I think he's just managing to copy the word from them too, because otherwise he would be like, what is this? This Narnia talking about? Yeah, he's almost like more about fact and less about more about fact and less about fiction. Yeah, it's a very petty drama between them, but it's understandable. Yeah, probably first time they met each other because unless they have seen each other before, I'm not sure. Well, there's definitely no previous mentions in the other films. Okay, so now that they're called to adventure, and he's freaking out, understandably. Yeah, Lucy and Edmund's like, oh, we've had other things happen before. And even when he tries to do that, oh, he's getting absolutely drowned. The entire ocean's on him. Surprised he's not got suffocated. Oh yeah, now the floor is presumably like disappearing because and all of this like starts to disappear as well. I think. What is the transition like? The top of the ocean is like really like gradually got high. So there you go. And this is probably the soonest the adventure starts. Well, in the last film, there was just there has to be an intro to try and juggle with too. So yeah, it's definitely it can assume it's Narnia, but they also don't know who rules this ship because, as evident by the Tomries, it could be anyone. Some people dive in a red helm. That's nice. Not to mention the actor of Eustace. Is this his first breakthrough? Because he appeared on that, then Maze Runner, and then a couple of other films. Yeah, he's done really well. I like him as an actor. He was quite good in Guardians 3. Yeah, Edmund Still's film for himself. That's nice. And I think he's partially accepting that he's getting saved. Oh, now that's a good platform. And then, they have the things as well, so you can see how that has its own function. It's like one of those things where you're like, how come nobody else invented this in like the 1700s, etc. So rather good looking ship as well. We do get to explore bits and bobs about it later on as well, and enough lands to explore as well. Oh yeah, so that clarifies that they weren't exactly called, and obviously Reaper again. It was like Rip Cheap's lost a fight. And you might have can tell that it's a different voice actor, but once again, Simon Pegg does quite well to carry over what Teddy Izzard kind of introduced. Because the four Pevensies were like more like accepting of Narnia when they first introduced to it, but but Eustace is really not liking this at all because you know how he doesn't like fairy tales and that. But granted, you don't know about I think the Pevensies must really like their fairy tales and kind of wish they came true, but Eustace is like the complete opposite. So Edmund already wants to throw him off, and Eustace making a fool out of himself. Now he's down. I feel like the Minotaur looks slightly different in design. Must be. Well, there's no armor, that's for sure. yeah, that moment's kind of funny. Yeah, I'm talking about this one thing, but a Minotaur, yeah, that's completely out of your depth. And I can see they have thorns, and that's the captain. And there you go, they get a bow once everything's sorted and clarified. How many thorns do they have? So they definitely have 2 Minotaurs and I think a couple of thorns, so we could definitely infer that the race variety is a lot smaller, because you have mermaids, you have a serpent, you have a dragon, like just a couple of like just more singular grand creatures than their variety, which I kind of miss from the previous 2 films. So yeah, they're just like what's around them so far. And those items were yeah, I reckon Caspian kept all of this safe just in case he ever encountered them. Granted, definitely not meet them by the sea, but or at the sea, but yeah, it's nice for him to keep. But how long has it been since the events of the last film? So it's letting. Yeah, Caspian doesn't exactly keep the sword. I think he does put it away, but he offers that. Yep, of course he would be on top of the tower. But it would take, checking if it's worked. And then a bit more geography about Narnia, which is nice. The 3 is. So is that so if that's the only piece of information, so it's been 3 years since the last one, so definitely no 100-year gaps. Oh yeah, of course not, because Caspian's still but like a similar age. Of course. Okay, so that has motivated Caspian and presumably the others. Yeah, like one reason why this voyage trip has started. Yeah, did you find out what happened to the lot of them? And that already foreshadows serpents. Yeah, that's already more more foreshadowing compared to the water god in the last film. Not to mention the score in this is really nice. They have like a more unique flavour, this score does. Yeah, it has that sea adventure kind of feel, which is rather neat. Even the main theme has that similar flavour as well when it plays it. And then that song, what could that be about? I guess like an adventure song almost. Yeah, don't speak people when they're trying to sing. Yeah, and Repeat's here because he definitely likes the adventure, and he's also after seeing one type of place. Oh, yep, he says it right here. Why are they doubting that land's existence? Well, I guess if no one else has seen it, then fair enough. But at this point, anything is believable nowadays, especially when coming here. Yeah, I say not to mention that in none of these films, aside from Eustace, none of the Percy's have this thought of or showing concern of, oh, if we don't make it, then we don't go back to home to England and that. And granted, they're younger and they probably enjoy the adventure, but there hasn't really been that much acknowledgement. Yeah, is that why Eustace could perhaps be the best kid, because he at least worries about coming back and that, and how it will affect him, especially when it comes to dragon, but we'll get there. So, like the second film, Edmund's having another sword practice, but you can see how, although I don't know, there's been no sword fighting in England unless he does like fencing classes or something. Maybe that's why you've probably got better, and that's probably just as good as. Okay, just to test the strength, but yeah, I'm making it up that well they have had some training, in the first film, but do these weapons like teach you to be good at swords? They have like a sense that connects to your head. I don't know. That's like the only reason I could think of, and it's not a reason said in the film. Yeah, so this film has like the idea of, oh, what if there's land beyond the horizon, which is a neat concept. I know there's always land beyond the horizon, but it's just going for more literal, what if, like the edge of the sea. I wouldn't say a zoo is far more people around. Unless they have other creatures, but we don't see that. Okay, yeah, we have a watcher, if that's the right term. Yeah. I do find these bit like see things interesting. Someone who has the wheel, someone who gives the orders, someone who watches, and then you have the sailors. They get the rowing rods. Rowing rods, is that the right name? Paddlers. They do get them out. A bit like even Pirates of the Caribbean has that. So is this the Lone Islands they're going for now, or they go to the Lone? Oh, okay, yeah, they're at the Lone Islands. Okay, so yeah, the next destination's already been set. As efficient as it is, it still feels rather quick. I feel like I don't know, enjoy like explored more of the ship and also just understand more of the status. I don't know. We have been given some information at least. I think yeah, the film's just good at being efficient. So a lot of like key states the orders as well. We have about is there like three types of captains then? Yeah, because there's the bald bloke, there's Caspian here, who's just been clarified that he's pretty much like the primary leader, especially in that source for the first time. Edmund gets slightly undermined, and then yeah, the Iron Monitor has orders as well. So yeah, we have like three ranks. So it is quiet. I don't think it's been on a boat before. That looks like a similar crossbow design to the Tamarians. Do they get repurposed? I can see that happening. He's pretty much helped redefine. Well, I say redefined. I don't think they're a thing anymore. Just yeah, just that whole function of people. Yeah, I think that would have been fine. Especially if Caspian's been talking about peace. So yeah, Paul Eustace. He's almost like the audience being like, oh, we're just straight into the action. Yeah, because Edmund and Lucy, they've been always settled with it, but Eustace, yeah, doesn't know what to make of it. See someone in danger, and oh yeah, what's weird is that right now, yeah, a bit weird to fib, but it's the quiet thing that's concerning, not yeah, I think it just goes to show Eustace not being I think yeah, it's just trying to get away from the adventure and in some way um tries to reassure them. He keeps overthinking. I think he does kind of go on the arc of being a bit more, I guess, a bit more adventurous, pretty much. That he's allowed to, enjoy those kind of experiences, even if he, because I suppose after the film he does probably go back to Narnia for a couple of times, maybe even with the others, even meet Peter and Susan. I can somewhat see that happening. Does that even happen in the last book? I'm just wondering. So the name's crossed out. That could either mean loss of life or maybe those that were sent out, which we'll see later. So we get like a unique kind of culture and how this place rules, even if we're there very briefly. He's used a torch to whack someone again. At least it didn't break this time because it will come in handy later. And somehow at least he knows how to fight it. She must have trained off screen. So useless has been more like useless. Anyway, yeah, he must have got ambushed rather effectively. Yeah, Edmund's clearly not impressed. Irons, that's an interesting nickname. Oh, why not put all of them on the market? Yeah, I think Edmund got that hit because he was probably resisting. And this bloke right there, do we even see him? Because I remember thinking, oh, he looks significant, but um, um, I think we hope he gets his comeuppance. Oh yeah, so yeah, Caspian sensibly said, "Oh, do some forces if we're out too long." Oh yeah, I think they're just woken up. And then who is that? And I think because with the seven men that are about, he's probably not only my favourite one, but probably the one with the most development and wisdom. Yeah, because we get to see what these what the positions of these seven men are like. Lords, yeah, that's them. Now he's wondering how he was recognised. Yeah, I wonder how he ended up in there. And also why they all splintered. I think, once again, probably me missing something. Yeah, apologies. So he knew. Oh, okay, so he was around with during his father's rule. Okay. Oh yeah, because did Caspian say something like how these lords like all left because of Caspian the Ninth, like being dead or something? Yeah, I say it didn't seem very urgent. So yeah, that yeah, these men, yeah, they just yeah, keep their character protected. I wonder why they select certain individuals. Um, what's interesting is that maybe yeah, I think maybe it is just like certain lands. And more where we're visiting. Well, this one is just more of a very human-filled area. But yeah, I wonder what how the selecting process works, and also how the civilization also came across this mist as well. They could like I don't know like worship it, or maybe they I don't know. Does the mist like work like that? Like trades or something. They shouldn't do it for fun and games because you could just send out empty boats and not have anyone hurt. Oh, he's about to explain. And the East we're like focusing on in this story. Ah, so that's why the Lord's been out and about. Okay, one other reason. Yeah, I think they probably have split into try and do these bits and bobs. Okay, so that probably explains a bit more about the mist, etc. And this village kind of feels small. Well, I think it kind of is, yeah, because all the residents are like very scared to come out. Yeah, I probably can see why. Yeah, the residents just kind of hiding. I'm surprised they're not getting picked upon. Oh, yeah, this scene is awesome. Oh, some were moles. Okay, there you go. Now resolution is happening. What was Rupchi do? Oh, I think he did. Yeah, was pulling at something. Okay. All that man's just lost in the chain. Even the residents are like, oh, what's going on? But not to mention, these residents come and help fight as well, which is why we need. Using a sword to unlock. Fair enough. Oh, Blue's improvising. I don't know how I'll whack at least that kind of fall, but oh well. Oh my god, I think there's 3 Minotaurs actually. Because I remember one is like brown and the other 2 are black. And then we do see, how different races have their own skills and that. Yeah, Eustace is already trying to get away. Oh, let's see the residents help as well. Yeah, I almost want to say this is my favourite part of the film. But not to mention this showcases like their routine, to travel to get these lands into peace. Yeah, and so yeah, that's the chairman. Okay, so he does get sorted. Yeah, so he wasn't forgotten as I thought. And so yeah, being in a land like this, he's pretty much believing anything at this point. I wonder what he was thinking of back then, but regardless, Although I thought, could it be did he still want to sell him, or maybe he did have to go? Oh, yeah, he doesn't understand how the balance of these rods work, and so he's extremely bright to know what that is. Anyway, the goon is down. I've obviously more than down because of the water in that. I wonder. Oh, yeah, it was down to trying to grab hold of her. So yeah, we had a introduction earlier, and so he's like very keen to join them, and I think they do get a slightly extended crew, probably due to similar reasons to him. And we do see her again, although I do have questions with how she managed to snuck in the ship. Is that right? Yeah, I'm not sure. So here's another quest part of the story. So every lord they find another sword, so it becomes like a collecting thing. Although, well, oh yeah, I think it is those swords that create the glow later on, like a cool ability later. I mean, if you wonder about the state of it, they do manage to get rid of the rust on it, etc. And that lord is right about how it will protect them, because the power of all of these swords is what later saves the day. And yeah, and that's a promise. And yeah, they get some kind of cheer, and useless had that look of, oh, what on earth is that? Because it may not look impressive at first, but it will once the stuff is off. And Edmund, I guess, likes the gift, and oh yes, it's diary time, which was set up earlier. A mice thing or a mouse thing. Yeah, I don't think he believes he's all mouse. He only talks and can solve fire. Well, I suppose that is superhuman or super mouse, you could say. So these kind of help catch us up for what's going on, and not to mention what's all around you. They're all sorting things out. Lucy has a sewing copy, I suppose, and that sword is all of the stuff definitely goes off, because we all see the swords later. And then as Eustace is in that mindset of if it's fancy, anything's possible, and so he thinks the bird would talk. And that's like a two-way joke of some kind. It gets too hard of a whack. Yeah, so they have that kind of banter. So yeah, once again, the comedy is. I feel like this is like the funnier one, as opposed to far more comedy being around. But as whilst it does make this one stand out more so than the other two, it strangely still has that Narnia flavour still in there, as it previously established. Oh, yeah, Reaper must. I don't think they have any nuisances on board or any moles other than him, so I can probably see why Reaper would keep an eye on him. Oh, so it has happened before then. Okay. Oh. Yeah, he's very protective of it. Okay, so this must be a kind of traditional practice. Oh, careful, especially with that blade you're holding. I don't think he's trying to get off the boat. I think he's trying to get away from him. Lion, and that was a good measure. I as good as he was in the previous film, I probably like him more so here. Not to mention, I feel like the size of the orange changed there because realistically, I don't think he would be able to swing an orange like that. A small continuity error, but it's fine. But what though, despite messing about, he actually gets some kind of training. Well, I say training, because none of us, none of us know, us or them know what will happen to him later on. So I suppose it is a good sort of practice for whatever happens. But regardless, it still makes Eustace far more confident, stronger, and it helps build some kind of bond between them two. Yeah, especially by the end. So definitely would have climbed all the way around. Yeah, I can see that happening. That was a decent enough push. Oh, someone yelped. Yeah, the way the hand came out like that, it reminds me of that funny moment where there was someone I don't know who used to like get their hands out of their sleeve because it just looks kind of funny. Looks like a creature itself coming out. But anyway, regardless, so she manages to sneak on board. I don't know why, and I think everyone's going to be like, "Oh, what's going on?" But yeah, they decide to welcome her, which is fair enough, and yeah, even a gift as well. And Lucy helps settle in further. They kind of have their own little friendship in the story, and yeah, and not to mention they're probably gone so far they're in the middle of the sea, so there's nothing really they could do about Gale. I think he did enjoy it really. I think he's just trying to maintain his cynical ways and still not fully into Reaper Cheap still, but I think Reaper Cheap can tell that yeah, it's what I said. He enjoyed it really. And I guess it also shows how good Reaper Cheap a fighter is, although we already know that, but I guess that's how he trains, which is kind of neat. So this is another island. Although they've established two, sleep on the boat, so why not dock, like somewhere, with an anchor and then arrive to the land then. But as we know, the reason, they're put in this position so Luther could get nicked and so forth. That's not very nice. And so you'll see why Lucy gets nicked, and yeah, she's just grabbed. So he gets some later idea for because these creatures that do have a name. Although I wonder if they actually exist in mythology or is this a C.S. Lewis invention? But yeah, I think the way she's grabbed it's quite convincing. and we've seen a bit more of the island, and we can see that what kind of weaponry they have, and this can seem to disarm opponents quite quickly. I doubt it. Yeah. Whilst this film does have some dark moments, I do feel like this is a lot lighter in tone, probably lighter than the previous film, because... Oh no, did they actually go back down to a PG, I think? Anyway, so these beings aren't so smart, thinking of, oh, yeah, get rid of the only source of the ransom, but then they go for unaware threatening. So they got there eventually. But yeah, they've probably been on their own for quite some time, and they say later that they were made invisible to be protected, to which, yeah, because the main dude of the island, he's aware of the mess, isn't he? So I guess it adds to a bit more world building, I suppose, a bit more exploration, we get to see a bit more of the magic within that. How many are there speaking? I think there's about 3 or 4. And then that's a reasonable answer. Or add, what about the other parts of numeracy? Is that statue moving? I'm not sure. Yes, as I was saying, so it's exploring more of the whole world, more about the magical systems, you see more creatures, and a bit more awareness of the mist, and other bits about the lore as well. So, yeah, this scene, despite being quite comedic at times, I think it does achieve quite some bits and bobs. Yeah, I think that still works as English, I suppose. Do you know how hard it is to get up? Well, yeah, I think you'll need a very good sleep first. Although, yeah, he's still in deep sleep, but yeah, he'll be fine at least. Although, I think they should get everyone together to make sure everyone's safe. But Eustace, is only still asleep for comedic payoff later on. Yeah, so in this scene, it's definitely for the first time, Lucy has to work out some puzzles. So that's the first puzzle. Yeah, I think the animation looks fine. Yeah, it just looked like some very basic After Effects, but yeah, no, it works for what it does. They needed to spend more time on other VFX bits and bobs. Am I getting spelled? Oh no, that has a lot of implications. So she decides to before getting on to straight into the invisibility spell, because I think she doesn't feel too threatened by the blokes. But what if they see her messing about with the book? Because you just don't know how serious they are, even if they are, a bit goofy at times. So she could do a bit of a move on, but I suppose it backs up with curiosity. Oh, blown it again does that. And then there's the miss, so that, yeah, because if it is carrying over the theme of temptation, there does seem to be a theme throughout these books, like the negatives of temptation. But also, not to mention the snow spell, I think that gives us some memories of when she first came to Narnia. And then we're back to this subplot again, to which it's still Yeah, it's just something that's never really been hinted at in the previous like 2 films. Um, yeah, so she's double checking if it is legit or not. Although I think one part of this subplot is that I think it does. Okay, so there is a shortcut to this spell. Fair enough. Quite an interesting thing for the book to do. And oh yeah, she gets a call. Yeah, almost like a warning or like a heads up. But I wonder how Aslan is doing that. Would it be like inside her head? Most likely. But yeah, I think one part of this subplot is that it's just. I think it is trying to explore all of the main characters' temptations and how it affects them. And luckily, Lucy managed to get out of it soon enough. But it nearly becomes consequential between Caspian and Edmund, and then of course Edmund gets the biggest blow, which is a bit of a shame. So I think that's what I'm going for. But I feel like Lucy would have, I don't know, another type of temptation which makes more sense and is in line with the previous 2 films. But we'll go back to it because that's one more scene. And anyway, these guys are getting absolutely battered. Seem to be the most powerful creatures at this point. The way this army, imagine if they joined the Battle of Bruna in the first film, that would be quite a feat, wouldn't it? At the moment, I'm surprised that the guy's like, wait, hang on, the spell's fading. Oh, and not to mention, how did he like just wake up or something? Because he would have been making noises and interacting all sorts, like all this time, unless he just entered. So he seems to be slightly pleased that he's around, although he should be a bit triggered that the spell's been deterred. But now, or at least they'll be pleased that. Oh yeah, I suppose they can see each other, which yeah, they can see that the spell has worked. So yeah, the con of losing this spell is that they definitely lost their intimidation. Chief, so he's the leader then? Okay. And wait, hang on, did that mansion just... That's just started to form now, because otherwise it would have started forming along the way, so that's a bit inaccurate. Although, in fairness, the professor was the first to go invisible, so it's like a one at a time kind of thing. Yeah, he's clearly weirded out. Well, they're the weirdest thing to come across this world, I have to agree. I thought it was going to be like another professor, but no, he's called Oppressor. Yeah, definitely stands out. So this being called to about him quickly. Probably against the Mystia, which they do just discuss later on. What was that? Oh, okay. It's I'm not the most familiar with that material. I think he gave like a reasonable tone, but I think he's being sarcastic by being like, "Oh, should I know what they were already?" All behind the mist, so there's definitely more to it. Yeah, because as we later find out, it has like its own island. Once that island is down, it's all gone. So that looks like some star exploration, which is kind of cool. And then, oh yeah, this is like his own Google Earth. Yeah, he's in a very specific spot at the moment. Oh, there you go. That's yeah, a hint from the previous film. So I think he's just like progressing a bit more about accepting this world a bit more. But once again, he's trying to maintain that cynical nature because I think he's like too scared to be soft almost. I thought they already knew. Oh, actually, no. So each sword represents each lord. So, okay, so that is new information to them. So he seems to be aware of the lords. So I feel like I think he would most likely know a lot about this whole world, especially when, the part of the map has the Battle of Bruna. So Aslan has yet another thing as an island, a tomb, and then this. He's got a lot of things labelled after him. I can see why, he was there to begin with, which I quite like. Yeah, because whilst these films just a tad episodic, I think it also would have been nice to know where this myth actually came from, because there's absolutely no hint of it in the previous two films. Like, not that it can have like new things later on, but it feels like a tad late in the story. But and not to mention, they don't really ask if this was anything to do with their presence or not, because their presence or the lack of it was definitely part of the previous films, but not in this case. It just seemed to be there. Like, did it build up over time, or yeah, I'm not sure. I think it did. I think we just have to accept it as like a new thing. It's like in Ant-Man where they're like, oh, the quantum realm's a thing. So yeah, I think it's fine as long as it if it's like blended in the world in a way that's reasonable. I just only wondering why it hasn't really like come about previously, but maybe it is just like a sea only thing, which is quite broad. Like, would that affect every coast of Narnia then? So now we see what they're like in the rain, which adds to the exploration a bit. Yeah, they're a very good prepared set of men. Oh, that's them sourcing water. That's actually rather cool. I thought it was like a way to get this water off the ship, but no, you should source it, absolutely. It's free water. Or at least they're doing something about it, even not. So he holds quite a a small grudge. Yeah, I don't think Ripstick can do an awful lot, but he seems to enjoy the ride at least, so that's what makes him stand out further. I feel like the cast here is like a lot smaller, so it feels like everyone's a bit more defined, but I feel like the previous film still did that also. Oh, okay, so the rough sea is um, this is like the first obstacle, the rough seas, which is already kind of tricky. So he's just letting everyone know about what they're thinking. Oh, okay, so there is like a small debate, but so he's just being very aware of the dangers. So yeah, no argument as such. He's just wondering about the quest or not. But they've got ready to turn back now, because whilst the sailor and his daughter, they don't really add a lot. They're not the most characterized, but it does add it had more of a reason to keep going. There's other people to save as well, and if we don't, if their goal is to create peace for Narnia, then yeah, this is what must be done. There it is. I wonder, does she actually see it? Probably not at the moment, but I think it's visible enough. And not to mention earlier, in the that one-legged race, when they were, becoming uninvisible, I think there were a couple of looks being like, oh yeah, the spell is gone. So I think they couldn't see each other. Oh yeah, it's daytime Sunday, so you can kind of stream already. And it looks like wait, hang on. So she woke up reading the spell, unless I tell you what, maybe the spell was made to be like more, transformed more so into a dream. just seeing like the consequences of it or something along those lines. So yeah, this time, it looks like Roy, like I said, at this point, you still can tell it's a dream. So I think this is the last time we see Susan ever in the story, not to mention we're about to see Peter once more as well. And judge from the music, still the 40s, or it could even go into the I don't know what years it could be set in. And yeah, they haven't really aged much. Well, Grant, I think Edmund and Lucy said they have, but not the other two. So yeah, something's not right. And yeah, definitely harder to use cameras back there. And I think another point of the scene as well is, as later explains, that with Lucy being the one to find Narnia, that's the reason everyone's had these experiences, and it's because of her. So Alison's only in the reflection. The CG work is really updated, looks really good. I think it's also a way for Aslan to be like, that Lucy is good enough as herself, especially when she helped discover Narnia, which has helped all sorts. And I think, I say later on, like even if, I don't know, it's just because she was more concerned about her looks more than her person, like her personality rather, because there are like times later on where, oh yes, of course, because she has the moment with the daughter, and the daughter's like, oh, well, what to be like you, and Lucy's like, now being yourself is fine, and then Lucy also finds like her inner strength to, fight the serpent, because she borrows Susan's bow, so it's like a way of, like, yes, she can still be like a sister or inspired by her in some way, but she doesn't have to be all like her, to which, okay, that subplot is actually making a bit more sense, but like I said, I don't know where the looks thing comes from, and once again, there's just no setup, and I suppose it does add to the whole temptation thing as well, so, okay, I think that's all far better than I thought. Oh, who was that? So unlike last time, where she was generally resurrected, but this time it is literally a spirit, and I guess it also somewhat proves that Edmund could still be tempted by the witch, but there was no hint of that in the previous film, because he too would have been like called out by the witch and probably drawn into it. But maybe Edmund should have been in that spot and not Peter. Peter could have been the one to break the glass down instead. Kind of dissing Edmund again. I feel like that should have been the case probably, because Peter also being tempted as well. It was interesting, but it kind of then makes, unless does that mean that, oh, of course, I think this story would have to, I'll tell you what, maybe Edmund just has the whole rule of temptation, but of course not tempted by the witch, because I think that's what this film I think should have done. He has talked about earlier about how he seems to be bothered about being left behind, and so he doesn't really want to be left behind again. I think he too just wants to explore more and not be bored, or, well, he has his diary, I suppose. And not to mention, he goes from wanting to stay on the boats to explore, so maybe he did like develop a more of a curious nature, to which I can see happening. Oh, there's a rope there, someone's been around. And they're obviously going to see what it's like, so Yeah, so this is just another island which they're going to try and resource from, which slightly pays off later on, because that is, like a common knowledge thing. How do they collect resources, and they do find some kind of food. But now they found this place, and what could be in it? Sorry. Yeah. So if Edmund, is, like still has that temptation for power, and I feel like could that have been visualized in another way? Oh, like foreshadowing the serpent, perhaps, or maybe the serpent could be like a talking being instead. Like another villainous obstacle for him to overcome. I can somewhat see that happening, although that means the serpent would have to talk at the final battle, which is not like a bad change. I think that could add more to the intimidation, actually. Also, we can clearly see how the water works, and oh yeah, that was a bit weighty, and therefore, I think Edmund nearly got caught in that spell as well. And that's probably their logo. Oh, the logo of one of them anyway. And we do hear a reason about why the sword is still in top-notch condition. And yeah, we saw the Green Mist as well, so someone else so thanks to the Green Mist, we know something's going to be up. So yeah, Edmund's just thought, there's a reason why he's here in the first place, but that's where Edmund gets a bit too drawn into here. And I suppose in the previous film, he was getting budged out of the line and getting undermined by Eustace and presumably his parents and other parental figures. So I guess that is like some kind of setup. He seems to be the guy who still doesn't like to be undermined. So there is like some kind of setup, but I feel like there should have been more. Way more frustration, which could have made this moment better. So I think at first looks like Edmund's definitely not thinking straight, but Caspian later. Yeah, it is just a case of Edmund taking it out on Caspian, but because of the area they're in, instead of Caspian talking reasonably, he seems to be a bit antagonistic. And they started to snap out of it. I guess not to mention it's also like a tad lucky that they come across like another sword here, but I suppose what could have happened is that they would have made their way to the island anyway, see how many swords they could gather, because there could be some more there, and they probably would have to explore and go to places like this one anyway. So yeah, it's just the events or the cause and effect is like somewhat swapped. Steak knives, far more than steak knives, I would reckon. Anyway, don't go too far. I need to. Although I think he thinks he'll be like searched or looked for anyway before they leave. Oh yeah, because they do look out for him. Oh, careful. Yeah, that's why I don't like staying, like going to any like edges, of cliffs and that, because you just don't know what piece will collapse next. But he too gets tempted, and because it looks like whilst Edmund and Caspian, they made it, but not him. But what's interesting is that the mist, got some people to go against one another. So yeah, the mist, despite being a force, is definitely trying to like ruin people, and And it's probably the first time he saw a skeleton, but there you go. I think some kind of bravery's kicked in. And he's like, oh yeah. Although it's the kind of bravery that is not, not like sure he pushed that aside, but look at all of that temptation is just getting drawn. That's almost like a sign of warning, but he decides to stick around. So it's like the mist wants to play games almost. Yeah, so that means like if someone's like on their own almost, that's where they get a massive consequence then. But yeah, it does seem to work in various ways. It is, although granted, when it was like taking all those people in the sailing ships, I think I think they just like to gather people and maybe mess about those who aren't getting teleported to the area. Well, more than teleported, they seem to be elsewhere because they are uncovered once the island is down. So, are they in some kind of spiritual realm in the meantime? Something like that. Anyway, try to find some food and they're going to have a look for Eustace. And there was a couple of looks from them being like, oh, fair enough, we do need to find him and we're together here. So, yeah, they're not getting tempted. They think that Eustace could be down there, and they're right. And what they find later on, gosh, like imagine seeing that at first glance. God knows what could have happened to him. And that too, I didn't really have a setup because there wasn't like many moments of, oh yeah, Eustace, you can go wander off wherever you like or stay around. I don't feel like sticking around you. Due to the almost sibling like rivalry. So if there was like more setup there, that too would have made that moment better. But now we've also been confirmed that was quick. Well, I guess it was nearby the body after all. So yeah, there was two lords there. So there are like some lords that like to group together and some on their own. So we've got two there, and there's three of the lords are on the island, which the primary island, which we see later on. Yeah, they do make obscure sounds, volcanoes after all. But he has an idea of what it is. Like, yeah, dragons haven't really been really a thing in Narnia. Maybe like one or two mentions, but yeah, regardless, they're just getting themselves ready. So now they're facing off a creature which is definitely, well, I guess they've been prepared for serpents, which I don't. Did they say they fought serpents before? If not, they I guess have to do well to improvise. With the little weaponry they have. So yeah, I think Eustace at this point I think he's just trying to communicate. That was a weird comment from Lucy. Although I think she's just maybe we can talk about how she's worried about the being destroying the ship. Although, because it's not speaking. They just think it's a rapid creature, which I guess is slightly tied to the previous film. With the rapid bear in the previous film. So that seems to be a definitive move done by Rip Cheap. So yeah, so I think Eustace right there tried to communicate. Clearly couldn't say anything, and he didn't try to attack them. So yeah, nothing contradictory there. So that's good. But now, look, yeah. And Eustace came back to the ship here as a way to be like, oh, go back on the island and come and get him. But it's not, obviously, for malicious reasons. And not to mention right here, he try to, he writes his name, here. So I think he would have, that would have taken quite some time. So I think he would have had like a bit of a scare. Then he's like, oh, I better try and communicate this. And yeah, I wonder if it is just that object alone, but actually no, it is just yeah, he's just had that look away, being like, wait, what? I didn't know. And the dragon does share Eustace's mannerisms in sometimes, so I think that I like as well. Did the jewellery thing like grow with him almost as well? Yeah, none of them know. These are like wondering, please, answers. So he's a bit frustrated there, but later on he does get quite upset. Upset later on, and he's not keen on Ripcheap here. Do reasonable things, and so yeah, some are going to stay around there, and the rest are going to sleep on the ship. He was wondering, well, what about these bits and bobs? But Eustace, thinks smartly once again. I think there must be some other wood nearby, maybe some dead roots or trees. So he's happy that he's his intelligence is like paying off in meaningful ways. But yeah, not to mention, I think the dragon's fine CG wise. I just feel like there's been other like some of the creations a bit better. I feel like the serpent might look like a better CG creature, but we'll come to it. Yeah, I think that comment from Edmund there is it looks like a slight grudge, or maybe a way to try and support Caspian then, or maybe a bit jealous that Caspian gets to still explore, and Edmund is kind of stuck where he is. But I think Edmund does go to a realisation that he'll be unlikely to come back here again. So yeah, at least that's been communicated, and some kind of reassurance. Which is true. So this mist is coming about, and Aslan once again is just I guess this film's excuse is that it's the sea, but I thought, could he teleport or something? I'm not sure. Because he is like just stuck on that one single island, although how did he get to that island in the first place? Anyway, so the realisation is not really getting to him. Doesn't fancy any of his company. And he's trying to be nice with him, which is really nice. Which is true. And yeah, Eustace over time does start to listen. Like, as nice as this is, I think Reaper is still subtly hinting about, he'll probably, come back to his normal self again, and this is probably like part of the journey. Because, I guess being a dragon is cool on paper, but if he was human before, then he definitely would want to be back to normal again. So Riptide was about to talk about a story which we don't hear the entirety of, but we can assume that he has quite an adventurous history. Oh yeah, what's so exciting? I know it's the morning, but oh, okay. Oh, I guess it was like kind of stormy and misty from time to time, although I think that's the reason. Otherwise, it's just decide to come up. I suppose you have to hit hard because of the hard scales. Yeah. What did they have to do another sleeping trip? I think Eustace will have to find a rock and they'll have to anchor nearby. Yeah, once again, the hard scales would probably make it no problem to lie around anywhere. So Eustace just flying around, and yeah, we can see that Rip Jeep does ride on him. He has like an extra pair of eyes, which is kind of neat and adds to their dynamic. So I've seen this creature before, and so they have another obstacle, and it's reefs pretty much. And then they've established a rowing thing. Oh, like a wind, therefore. Oh, okay. Yeah, so go back up, using the rowing. So that's where we can see some of the workmen are getting a bit famished. Which is probably half a joke. Oh, he's probably got a couple of broken bones. They're safe in there. But hang on, why didn't Lucy say to the others, she would have been believed. But he has an idea. Once again, he's using intelligence, and now the ship's like lifted up. And it's probably going to go quicker as well. Oh, all of the rowing boat sticks, I think they're going to come in, I think. Yeah, they're starting coming in, yeah, because they can go ahead. Yeah, granted, yeah, Reaper can still look anywhere. Yeah, so that's 3 out of 7. Interesting question, which you'll soon find out. Yeah, it can drift for a bit, and they can use their own boats to find nearby land. Yeah, I think all the islands we've encountered, all of them are kind of distinct. I say kind of, but yeah, they do have their own flavour to it. Oh, we can see the ruins at the top, so we can just get a bit of a heads up of what kind of area we're going to be encountering. So they follow the path. Yeah, I say very quickly, you can see that one of the characters gets a bit tempted by the food they see on the table, and later on he picks up again. So despite being like quite hang on, he still proceeds anyway. So that I find a bit inconsistent, but I mind. But yeah, they're just exploring the area. It's a bit eerie, and it's like quite a variety. Yeah, so that's that part. So yeah, the captain is like going to just be careful. With what happened to Eustace, yeah, anything could happen. That's where they've seen the men. Although we later find out who these are, and they're in suspended animation at the moment, which we found out why. Because at first they thought, oh, it's like the food on the table, but no, it was just due to another reason. And Caspian knows everyone's distinct features to know which lord is who. So everything seems to be fine. Yes, they are all still alive. That confirms it. But yeah, there seems to be no threat at the moment. And not to mention, we like the first lord we see, he seems to be like the only one who hasn't been tricked by the mist. Every other lord has, one way or another, because we hear about what's happened with yeah, we later found out what these men were like, but then we had two, drawn by the gold, and the last one we see later on. So yeah, I think it just really shows how tricky it is to go out about and see. Yeah, I think not gonna lie, when I first watched this film, I thought they discovered another set of swords, like all from the hay, but no, it would have been free from the hay, and the others being used to collect it here. So yes, that follows up. and so the star is coming closer. And we later find out that the star has a human form, and in the book, both Caspian and her, get married, and I think they still remain with each other for the rest of the book series, I think. They thought about her, fair enough, or she is an entity, I suppose. Oh, yeah, not to mention she has other forms, she stated, but I wonder what the other forms are, um, but she has this one, to which Caspian clearly likes, even Edmund as well. As you'll see later on, yep. Even Lisa could see that. There you go, that confirms it. Although it still raises questions about the men, but yeah, at least that gets explained. But yeah, I think the food must have been reserved quite well. And also when they mentioned, yes, the Aslan's table, that was hinted earlier, but not the knife on it. So yeah, how did they know about the knife in the first place? That was already on the table. And from that line right there, we can assume that they put on all the swords together and that. And I suppose all of these lords, well, some of them will learn a lesson of, not to be greedy again. Yeah, because this story kind of shows like enough of the consequence of it without being too complicated. Oh yeah, so they know each other. Oh, okay, so the island's right there. Oh yeah, the map did show that. And how did she know that? She probably saw one of the lords going in there. Although why didn't... Hang on. Yeah, how would she know? Because if he was going all the way, she surely would have like stopped him. And then I guess that's more of a book reference. Yeah, you might want to step back. Okay, at least it's gentle. But yeah, I wonder why. So maybe, well, like, was she the one who put the lords under the spell, or could it be the, the magician earlier? Not to mention, would that be like the same magician as like, in the earlier books, perhaps? Did they not know all of that before? Like when they're not told before? Okay, so they're bringing themselves now. It's a tad late, but never mind. Oh yeah, and then that's the next step of Lucy's own miniature story. I say I have heard of both from my own acquaintances and the online discourse about the acting of Lucy and Edmund. About both not being quite good in this specific film. To which I can see bits and bobs of it, and what's that? Okay, I thought something was happening anyway. Okay, so that's nice, I suppose. I think they'll probably think of Peter as like an inspiration, perhaps. I can kind of see how the armour's put on as well, so at least that explains that. Or this type of armour. And yeah, that would be true. But yeah, I reckon that the kid acting, well, I don't know, it's just, I think they do well, but they have like some moments of not being as convincing. But yeah, I'm not really an acting expert, so I don't want to comment too much about the acting side of things. Anyway, like Eustace was just flying straight in. I don't know what held him up, but now he's turning back, and Repeat gives him some advice. Yeah, which is half true. Yeah, it's almost as if one in a certain way Eustace is in this form, to help the others. Or he helps more than one actually, during and after his dragon form. And then as a we've seen that time and time again. I think I quite like this speech, even if it is a tad lengthy. Oh, I don't know, length is fine. Yeah, a shot of them too. Yeah, that's suitable. And just other words of encouragement. So yeah, Caspian is quite a decent leader. Something else I've thought about is that I think one reason for, with a more human overall cast, I think is probably to save the budget, because I think those that were making the films, they weren't, they were just aware that they weren't like the most profitable films. Sorry. So yeah, because I think the first one did rather well. The second one was fine, but this one was kind of low, and thankfully they did keep the budget low ahead of time. So yeah, I think they made some good calls. But like I said, I would have really liked a bit more rice variety on the boat. Yeah, as in because yes, we have had monitors and fawns in there, and Reaper Cheat, but if we had like a couple of earth creatures, or maybe a centaur, that might be a bit impractical actually. So that's where everyone's getting a bit flustered by all of this. So yeah, I think Caspian's speech has helped give some kind of a heads up. Oh yeah, not to mention, this is the first time we see the only time we see Caspian the Ninth. Yeah, because there is still, the Caspian still has that kind of doubt, although, because I think in the first film it was just like comparing his royalty to the Pevensies, but in this one it's just him wondering if he has definitely made it to for royalty, considering what's happened with his dad, and because this is like a quest he's trying to do for his dad, isn't it? And if that's so, I think that could have been a bit more substance to it. Yeah, and not to mention that, I don't think Edmund gets. I don't think it's just temptations. It is just like your fears coming about, and Edmund, I think, has definitely been scarred by the witch from time to time. Oh, this is the first time we see a torch in a long time. Now who's that shouting? It's one of the lords. How did he survive? He must have been around here recently. So he thinks he's about to be robbed. And I suppose once again, smart thinking comes about. I'm surprised they didn't suggest that idea, because it'll be far quicker. So yeah, he's been driven mad by the place as well, which makes him stand out. And he knows that name. Yeah. I think he's been scared at a point where he's almost like lost with hope, even if all they need is a sword. Yeah, of course. And not to mention, this is a odd moment because we haven't really seen Edmund might be scared of serpents up until I presume at this point, and not to mention, if that's how it works, like for instance, if someone was scared of dragons, for instance, hang on, how come it was just Edmund's thought that counts? Because anyone else would be scared of all sorts, like there should be like a whole heap of like multiple creatures in that. Could it be that Edmund was a Pevensey, therefore his thoughts counted the most? Yeah, at least we've been going ahead about serpents, but not so much about Edmund's fear of them. Maybe they could have fought like a smaller serpent at first, being like an easier test at first. But now they're up to a real test. Yeah, this creature's really powerful. Yeah, it does have a rather good go. And Ripcheech helps as well. Although you probably should have gone for one of the eyes instead, actually. There you go, he's becoming like a proper fighter. That's where that sword training somewhat pays off. That, I think the grab would be, if he has thick skin, he'll be fine, but that's still quite a beating, and all of that water as well could have been quite overwhelming. And despite being wet, the fire still gets to him, to which I guess is fair enough. I'm surprised that didn't do more, but fire does have its ways. Oh no, now he's been driven mad at a point where that he thinks of the dragon as the threat. Now he's trying to take control of the ship, and then later gets knocked out, and we don't really see him again. And not to mention, at first you could think that Eustace is probably scared of what's happening at the moment, but I think he's but that's the thing, he ends up landing elsewhere. Why didn't he? Oh my gosh, I thought he went to the island to gather all the swords, but instead he did almost like bail out at first, or because their island is right next to it. Oh, okay, maybe it is just finding the the closest land. Okay, that's okay then. I think he was probably trying to reunite all of the swords, but it looked like he couldn't make it. Because a stab like that probably would have really got you. And then we can see the serpent's like various abilities. It's like that boss from Super Mario Galaxy. What was it called? Gobblegut. Yeah, he was so hard. As the first boss, he was the hardest boss. Yeah, it took me multiple attempts to try and beat him. So yeah, she's kept safe, and Lucy's going to help with a fight for once. And then that's why they thought of a pretty neat idea. That's what she said. Sorry, I don't know how that would constitute an image. Constitutes that even the right word? I'm not sure. Anyway, so this thing is like really destructive. Oh my god, they're even having to row in the middle of this. So yeah, they're trying to escape as well. So someone's trying to do... Oh, Emma's got a good idea and he's trying to distract it. Not the best kind of words, I would say. So he ducked behind. It's kind of scared that he's been caught, but no, he's tucked himself back enough. So whatever. Oh well, there is the fifth Pirates of the Caribbean where like the fifth one where the front statue like becomes more animated to assist Salazar, but in this case this is just like the another time where the front headpiece becomes a bit useful. So that shot right there does actually get the serpent a bit more distracted, therefore leading to the crash. Yeah. Oh, he just fainted a bit, fair enough. So you can... It looks like it did something, but not a lot. But from in the use of still having the sword, we can still presume that a lot more work against serpent needs to be done, because the swords need to reunite. And then that's a sense of Eustace being like, definitely would like to, get out of this. I think he feels like a bit he's let himself down because, he's struggled to continue to fight, and I think he's got kind of fed up with this form, but he's still has a whole heap of bravery, and he needs to continue to help. Not to mention, I think hopefully he does get his clothes back in that waistcoat. Oh my gosh, yeah, that really adds to the destruction. I wonder if that's inspired by anything animal specific, like like an insect, perhaps, like sticky insides that can act as like a stronger force. Not sure. It's like gruesome, but it's very interesting. So that gives us an idea to. I think it's like an implied that I don't know. The serpent can probably be decapitated or something. So that could probably. Oh no, it is. No, it's just tilting it, which I guess makes it a bit rickety. Pretty good swing there. Oh, there he goes running. That's good. So yeah, he's definitely knows how urgent the situation is. So the serpent hasn't really been attacking. He's probably just attacking the ship itself, which is fair enough. And I suppose it's only an animal, but I don't know. Like if the animal's threatened, surely would attack what's attacking it. Oh yeah, Edmund has another idea. Yeah, I don't think they're counting on Eustace, with how he left. So you're gonna try and do it themselves first. Or even the mist is coming by to try and I don't because with how heroic Eustace is feeling, the best the mist can do right now is good timing, is to pull him away. At this point, he's just kind of getting distracted. Well, at the moment, he can't do an awful lot. So I have a vaguely good idea. Despite being a spirit? And I suppose that's like a small reference to, the previous film. Got some men down. What's my charge like? Okay, I've charged him while I'm okay. Oh, there we go. He's made it. There you go, very brief sky beam. The Queen's just like, what's going on? And so yeah, it's clear it's just already distracted by glowing things, and if I reckon that like the cave or whatever, it's tried to form the ultimate type of fear that embodies the entire place. It's like all of that fear comes to that thing, and once that thing is dead, no more temptations, and the whole thing stops collapsing. And it's fallen to some rocks at the bottom. So yeah, this entire area is like made out of smoke, or but goes into smoke, which is quite an interesting concept. Yeah, I don't know of any other land like it. Yeah, it's all getting brighter, and okay, oh no, can't quite see it yet. But yeah, basically the people all start coming about, and you do see the sailor's wife, all of those rowing boats come about shortly. So yeah, the day is truly saved, and even these lords are like, let's not be greedy again, right? Oh, is that one of my swords? Well, they're just humans, but maybe there's like a variety of other races on those boats. I guess we'll see. Yeah, they're trying to look for them already, and yeah, you can just about see her. Yeah, I think that boat has definitely been in this, like, I don't know, spirit realm for the shortest time. But that's a lot of boats. And these are just like the ones that were just like sent away. We don't see because the first Lord was talking about how there's casual boats like fishermen were just getting taken. So we might see them on fire in the background, but regardless, that's a lot of people to get on board, even if the Pevensies, etc., are going off. That was like 4 people and like hundreds coming back on. Did he swim all that way? Did he get dropped off? I don't know. Or teleported? And yeah, second to last scene of them. Yeah, second to last scene between them two. And I feel like that was probably the same tune as, that he was singing just on his own. I want to see a different one and say that's where that is. Yeah, I wonder how Aslan felt with this dark looming thing nearby his land. I bet he's like, "Oh, heaven seas, please come." Once again, he can sort it out himself. Was he there all that time? Did he just reappear again? I think that's, I don't know. That's his least clear position in this film. Yeah, so he's just describing the experience of and he's apologised. It's really nice. Yeah, he did all sorts of intelligent things. Yeah, it's a very warranted line. Oh, this is where we get the main theme again, but it's in a very grand and sea-like way, and then there's like a tiny motif and Aslan comes about. This is probably my favourite music in this specific film. And then this land, extremely simple, but a constant wave, stuck in suspension like that. It's a very cool bit of imagery. And then the way Aslan, so I think he just appears, so I guess it is teleporting then. Did Aslan like teleport Eustace being like, "Oh, if you'll be there, you'll be fine. There'll be people going on the ship." It's kind of treated like a congratulations, you've had your GCSEs, but you know what they've done is save a lot of lives. So I feel like Aslan could have done. I don't know, it just kind of reminded me of that. But I think regardless, Aslan's definitely appreciative of the help. Yeah, so I don't know why I just said that. I was like really silly with me. Just, I think it just reminds me of I've heard of from all sorts, and I guess Aslan's like a teacher occasionally, like a very good one. I think what Aslan could have said is like, um, oh, your great hero's done it again. I feel like that could have been a tad better, to really emphasise, um, their achievement. So, has been decided. Oh yeah, so and he's been on this quest, which has been useful and definitely paid off. Yeah, absolutely. Trying to help against the serpent and that. Yeah, and it's not every day where like normally when a character is crowned king, they're like, "Woohoo, I made it!" But for Caspian to go on a like post king arc almost, it's a vaguely unique idea. I'll comment about it later, um, and yeah, Edmonds is talking about we could do with going back to Earth. Yeah. Does that mean Lucy wanted to see Aslan's country then? She does need to go home. That's where they're mainly from, even if they do have their portents in Narnia every now and again. And yeah, without being as over the top in the previous film, he is still making like a paying a small price to be like, oh, I would really like to see the country. I'd even give up my sword, and yeah, permission's granted. Oh yeah, there is a boat later on that just suddenly appears, and I suppose Aslan just made it appear. Maybe, I think. And you can kind of see how the waves work, so that part I like as well. But anyway, just having their goodbyes. Okay, so Reaper knows what they're on about. And the interaction it's fine. I don't know. I feel like I can see through the effect almost, but I feel like it's normal, for hands to go under fur like that. It looks like he has really thick fur. And he has like the most emotional one, which I can see why. Yeah, because Eustace later on talks about, will I probably come back here, but regardless if he comes back or not, he definitely won't be seeing Rupert Chief again, which is a real shame. But, they've had a rather nice journey together. And it's a really good final moment. Yeah, because I look back on a lot of final moments between people I met, and some I liked and really nice, but there's just others which I wish there was so much better. It's although that's a topic for another day. But anyway, we see Ribshi have yeah. So this is how the waves work. Even if there you go, off he goes. And Aslan's country is kind of kept in a mysterious way. We only see like a couple of bits and bobs. But yeah, I kind of like how it's shrouded in a mystery. Just really showing that you do really have to give up something to go to it. Yeah, I don't think Aslan will be able to visit. He'll be like caught by a load of zookeepers or something. Okay, that's an interesting line there. Like one way both worlds connect. And I can see like, some kind of reunion, but very unlikely for another conflict. Because in this film trilogy, it does have a sense of, well, Prince Caspian's highest stakes, and this film was just pretty much rounding up all of the evil. Yeah, just making Eustace feel like he's included, which is really nice. Yeah, I'm not sure I said this before, but is this Eustace's the actor? This is his first breakthrough role. Oh, of course I did. Yeah, yeah. I just I really like him. His film, he did really well here, and um, yeah, and the other roles I've seen him in, and yeah. And he can probably get your dragon form back. Imagine that he has like like that temporary ability, or that I don't like him. I don't know. I guess we'll go for Twilight. It takes a very minimal effort to go between the two forms. I think imagine if he was getting that kind of ability. In fact, what is his future like in the books? I kind of wish I watched those breakdown timeline videos before going into this, but maybe I could do another video, something like that. Edmund, need to use your legs as well. Although maybe the water is just having to get them rise up anyway because of the whole area shrinking. Oh, that's just appearing as well. There's a pattern of these objects just keep appearing. Yeah, Lucy is maybe she's kind of struggled to go up the water until that point, and then the painting sucks up all the water. And then we definitely, I don't think. Is this yeah, I think the exact second since earlier. Oh yeah, they do have the clothes back. Okay, so you didn't lose that miniature gilet. I don't think that's the right word. It could be like a waistcoat or a shuffle. And then and then he has the last lines of the entire trilogy, which I really like. You wouldn't think it's like probably done by Lucy, but I just feel like because whether or not I don't know, it just has like a lot of finality. This film, it would be very tricky to make another Narnia film with just him and Caspian and a couple of others. Yeah, they're having that look at each other, being like, well, this is definitely it, back to normality. And what Eustace speaks about, like, the time together and, the war eventually ending. I think that's probably going through everyone's heads. And now Eustace has far greatly appreciated that painting now. Earlier I was just like wanting to smack it to stop the flooding, but he's and he still goes for them, and the ship slowly disappears. Yeah, it's been quite a journey, hasn't it? And then this is where, I love the song. Yeah, this is my introduction to Carol Underwood, and it's very nice. Very nice track. And yep, two of the writers above, they've written a lot of Marvel in the Infinity Saga. Yeah, I really like these credits as well because the previous ones are just normal ones, but in this time they've Andrew Emerson, who was still involved, but you can definitely tell it's a different production. Oh my god, look at the mouthpiece on the left. Is that the function of the headpiece all that time then? But yeah, so that's what some of the book illustrations look like, and it is quite interesting. So yeah, and we're probably going to throw a couple of these book scenes compared to the film. Not to mention earlier, it looks like they were standing in water. That's interesting. Yeah, they just have them swim. All right, time for the cast. Sorry. I was going to say something else. Oh yes, you see, you used to sound like I think with you just coming back, I think that's treated like a just like events that would happen afterwards. But probably I think that those who were making this trilogy would have been like, I don't think we have enough to create another one, because this was the early days of the MCU we would be getting into. So I think it would have been really tricky to make another one, which is a shame. I definitely would watch it because I really like this world, but I thought it's just not for everyone. And I guess throughout this trilogy, there's been massive time jumps and a couple of things that made us puzzle a bit. And if that was like enough to stop this trilogy from reaching great heights, then that's like a real shame. Because this was definitely made by effort, but I think if the likes of the writers were a bit more, just make sure they were like clear on things. And I guess a lot of the time they were just hoping that the whole abstract nature would help it get it away, get away with it almost. But do you have to have enough of a through line and just understand the events and the rules as time goes on? Because I think Harry Potter, that too can be a bit abstract at times, but at least we definitely have most of the time a very clear idea of the time differences and the rules occasionally. And because there are like some like effort with the rules, like for instance the three most powerful spells they've made illegal, but for the bad guys to use them, it creates the tension and a kind of consistent rule that way. So someone else going to but I think Eustace definitely, and his role as like a main character to warrant having his final words. It's just very nice. They're all in silence back into the mundane and just seeing how their life goes for them, which is it's slightly thought provoking in a way, but in ways that is like very positive in that. Okay, so before concluding, let's look at the time of film and film and book differences. I don't know what other tune to think of. No, ignore me. Let's just get on with it, shall we? Daughter in the film. Okay. In the film, Edmund attempts to enlist the army, only to be thwarted by Lucy in a manner eerily similar to the previous film, where she embarrassed Susan. When did she embarrass her? Oh yeah, you know when Caesar was like talking to that chap only for Lucy's suddenly come in. That's what they're making to be similar, as in Lucy gets in the way of things. That's not a nice way to label Lucy. She may be young, but still, I don't know. That's quite an odd comparison. But I would assume it's film original thing. That's what I was trying to go for. In the hang on, can I just see? Yeah. In the film, Eustace makes up a limerick, not a couplet. Okay, I don't know what either of those things are. In the film, Eustace addresses his parents as mother and father, whilst in the book he addresses them by their names, Alberta and Harold. Okay, I guess it was that more formal in the book. In the film, Eustace faints when he sees the animals can talk, whereas in the book he dismisses Ribcheap as a performing animal. Yeah, because in the film Eustace stands out as being like an extremely meta character. You know, they've gone with because if you remember when the four kids just enter, they're almost like accepting of it immediately, or at least settle far easier. But you know, if Eustace is set up to be more of a facts first kind of person, then despite how over the top it is, it strangely suits like the tone of the film at this point and the character thus far. And not looking back, it's actually quite amusing. So yeah, even if this film is like slightly different compared to the previous two, you know, especially with that episodic feel, it just like suits the film really, in a way which yeah, I think it would have been interesting if it had like more of a similar tone to the previous two. Yeah, to make it a bit more of a consistent flavour, but I think it would have been hard for all sea adventure when the previous two were definitely like ground battles. But yeah, I think the film kind of makes Eustace a bit more more of a genuine reaction, you could say. In the book, immediately after boarding the Dawn Treader, Lucy changes out of her wet clothes into clothes borrowed from Caspian. Caspian's shoes, however, fit so badly that they are unwearable. While she does get her own clothes returned to her dried, she kicked off her shoes in the sea and so remains barefooted until sea boots can be brought for her in a narrow haven. In the film, the clothes Lucy changes in to fit her much more properly, and as such, they include a pair of boots. Yeah, I think the film was just definitely fast tracks it, but in a way that's reasonable. But I guess it's interesting for the film, the book to acknowledge it with such detail. In the book, Ripperty challenges Eustace to a duel before arriving at the Lone Islands. This challenge is replaced with a duel between Caspian and Edmund in the film, and Ripperty and Eustace later have their own duel after visiting Narhaven. So yeah, Caspian and Edmund having the practice fight. Yeah, it's a bit like the previous film, so it's got to that kind of reference, and I guess a bit of bond building between Caspian and Edmund, and a bit of culture on the ship. Yeah, because I think with the way Eustace is set up at first, I think it would be far too writing a duel between them two for that this soon. So yeah, where it's placed later on, it's definitely far more suitable then. So yeah, that's interesting. At the Lone Islands, Caspian instructed his men to keep silent about their identities and only revealed who he was to Lord Byrne after he brought his freedom, having been reminded of Caspian's father. In the movie, Caspian shouts, "I am your king," the second they are ambushed by the slave traders and meets Lord Byrne in the cell. where the stage traders throw him and Edmund. Okay, yeah, I think the film makes that a bit more brief, to which I guess I understand, because despite, achieving more peace, and it starts off a quest, it's almost like their normal routine of how they solve their peace, and yes, it did need to be quicker, and yeah, and of course Caspian would announce him to be king, so like, even though none of them not like the typical rulers with like the crowns on and that, but if they are the leaders, then of course you would have to say itself, above that role, and it was wrong of them to attack them in that manner as well. So yeah, I definitely understand where the film is coming from, but I'm sure the book has its own reasons. Okay, next up, in the book, Caspian learns from Lord Byrne that the state traders have been allowed to operate without interference from the Governor Gumpus, who sees their practice as unavoidable and necessary for the economy. In the film, Caspian learns from Byrne that the state traders have been making sacrifices to the Great Mist. Okay, so this time it looks like the book has explained a lot more of like, as it says, the economy in that, but yeah, the film just dismisses that into sacrificing to the Green Mist, which is still quite unclear, because if they are like slave traders, then why not like keep them on the island? Like, do they trade to the mist to survive? Is that what they're trying to go for? I'm not sure. I think it just goes back to making this introductory part as brief as possible to make more time for the more important stuff later on. But it would have been nice to know these bits, and some more idea of the land, before resolving the problems. So yeah, I feel like the book kind of wins that one. In the film, Lord Byrne had not left Narrhaven because he had been captured and imprisoned by slave traders. In the book, he had not left because he had married and settled down there. Okay, yeah. Although what the film tries to go for is him kind of being saved, and thanks to that, he gets one of the swords. So that definitely carries through. But I think if he was like married in that, I think that would have been a bit more complicated, because the film puts all of the lords in various positions, but the only thing is that Lord Byrne seemed to be the only one who, despite being captured, he seemed to still have a lot of his dignity left. He didn't, lose his life or go insane. He was still the exact same person as far as that we can see. Okay, in the film, Rince is a Narrhaven citizen who joins the Voyage to find his wife. In the book, Rince is a high member of the Dawn Treader crew. Okay, so yeah, it's different. I like it, and I guess just shows how they, the film shows how they're willing to add more crew members, and like I said, it adds a bit more like tension and stake when they have to find those captured by the mist. So it helps with that. So yeah, it adds to it, and it doesn't add too much either, because I remember when first watching the film thinking, despite being very young, I was still like, oh, what, how much are they going to play into the film? And it's only like in little snippets. Their screen time's actually rather small, but it does help the film in these little bits. The Dark Island takes form of a green mist, becoming a sort of sentient threat seeking to corrupt all goodness and steal the light from the world, rather than the embodiment of fear in Narnia. Okay. I don't understand how that's a difference. Is that like a all film thing? It doesn't really mention either. Maybe it's just a point to help with later context later on, I'm not sure. Similarly, the sea serpent was a dumb brute that the Dawn Treader is able to slip away from beforehand, therefore Island. In the film, it appears at the end as another manifestation of the green mist. Oh yeah, so the film definitely made it more intimidating. And granted, it wasn't like the most intelligent creature. You know, it got rammed into a rock, but anyway, don't drove us over a separate way before. Oh yeah, so the book made the sea serpent far less of a threat. So yeah, modern film for that. Caspian was much closer to Edmund and Lucy's age in the book. He had a very age and very had a very different temperament. Yeah, that we kind of knew from the previous film. Yeah, like the age difference. In the book, he just tries to steal water, whereas in the film, he tries to steal an orange. Um, yeah, the orange, adds like a bit of a funny gag with with the sword, and then it's later given to Gale. So that's where that. Oh, I guess I don't know. I don't know how it would work as water because I don't know. There's no like little buckets they could have like a lid on. So yeah, I feel not just a bit more like practical. Um, yeah, that's overall. So yeah, it's a good choice. Uh, and yeah, it's done. Yeah, Homegrown first up similar things. Geography has been drastically changed for the film, resulting in some islands being visited in a different order than they were in the book. In the book, Dark Island came before Remedies Island. Dragon Island and Goldwater Island were two separate islands. Neither were volcanic, and both were visited before Gorican's Island. Okay, different island. Yeah, not gonna lie, I kind of forgot which one I label as which. I've got some idea, but um, hang on, they merged both the Dragon Island and the Goldwater Island together, so that is what they've done. Um, so that's interesting. Although as the film does it, I still like it because it's like more fantastical and more dangerous as time goes on. Although I can't really say that because the island with the gold was definitely more dangerous than the island of the star. I don't know how to say that name. Um, but it still has like a grand build up of scale and grandness, I suppose you could say. In the film, Riptide never accompanies Caspian, Edmund, and Lucy as they explore each of the islands. Um, yeah, I suppose all this time Riptide, helped keeps an eye out on, by the boats. Yeah, I suppose it helps defend the boats. Although, what if he did come with the others? Feel like I think a lot of the events would have played out in similar ways. When they got captured first, and when Edmund got grabbed by the dragon, and witnessing the corruption at one point. Maybe you could have like stopped Edmund from going ahead, and it could have had message anyway. So I can see Hughes just not being tempted by the golden because I think Riptide probably could try and warn him, and maybe Hughes just could have dismissed him then, but that I think would have complicated to some bits and bobs. So yeah, I think that's fine as it is. In the book, the ship is caught up in a violent storm for 2 weeks after departing Narrowhaven, and arrives at Dragon Islands, but Dragon Island's badly damaged. Dragon Island's badly damaged. Okay. In the film, the storm comes after departing Magigan's Island and before arriving at Goldwater Island, and no serious damage is caused. Okay. Okay, so the film affected the island. The storm affected the island in the book, but not much has affected the. Oh, okay. Yeah, because the storm was just basically the obstacle, not an event which makes something harder later on. Because if it was like damaged in the book, the island was, then yeah, I suppose it makes that land trickier. But in the film, I do like how there was like a small debate of, is it worth going ahead, and they still decide on yes. In the book, though, it's assured that Lord Octisian died at Dragon's Island, it's implied variously that he was either killed or transformed into a dragon that Eustace encounters. In the film, Lord Octisian's remains are found among the treasure and identified by Caspian, though it's uncertain what actually killed him. Okay, yeah, so it looks like the book kind of made that clear. Because yeah, that is like left unanswered. You know what did happen to him? We know what happened to the other lords except for him. So yeah, because no weapon on him, and there would have been some food. You know, as evident in the film. You know, it's not like it. Yeah, it would have been slightly plentiful. Did he get driven mad and forget to eat? I've no clue. Looking at the film alone, so yeah, I think once again the book wins. In the film, Corrigan turned the duffel pods invisible to protect them from the green mist, and they seek Lucy's help because they can't read. In the book, the duffel pods turn themselves invisible after Corrigan turned them ugly. Oh, I see. They sought Lucy's help because only a girl can reverse the spell, and they were too afraid to send their own daughters. Okay. So yeah, the film definitely just trimmed it down to, because I think they want to be invisible so they can, yeah, I guess like interact with one another. You know, came out across to their intimidation, but you know at least they're back to normal, and you know makes it, and yeah, the film just makes it a lot more straightforward, and yeah, definitely no mention of daughters in the film that the double pods have. Um, So yeah, because because they were you know kind of entertaining from time to time, but I wouldn't want a lot of information about them. You know, they were just presented as goofy creatures, and that's it. Yeah, I definitely preferred you know learning about the other bits and bobs. Anyway, in the book, Eustace was unable to follow the Dawn Treader at sea until Aslan changed him back from a dragon form. In the film, Eustace remained transformed until the end and is curiously able to pull the ship when there's no wind. Hang on, unable to follow. From. Okay, so you probably went back and forward forms in the book then. Okay, yeah. The film kind of neat in that part. Yeah, I think it would have been really complicated to go in and out of that form because when Eustace has like the dragon form at first, it created like potential complications later on, but you know once it was reversed, there's like the earning of yay, made it. So yeah, I can see, and it looks like pulling the ship maybe was a book invention. Yeah, it's a slightly cool moment. Yeah, I've got quite a lot. In the film, a page from the Book of Incantations tempts Lucy by showing her as the exact image of Susan. In the book, she imagined her beauty surprising Susan's. She also harmfully used a spell to spy on her friends, but in the movie, she uses a harmless spell to make it snow indoors. So yeah, the film definitely made that simpler. I would, although that's just asking about questions of a book I never read. So my sister's read it though. I wonder what she thinks. So I don't know where the spying part comes from. So yeah, the film definitely needed to have like more specific focuses. And once again, I don't know what the about the insecurity of Luciana looks like comes from, and does it lead anywhere? Because like I said, it should have been you know more about her insecurities, because you know Edmund, if you know when he referred to himself as second fiddle to Peter, etc., Lucy could have had a similar parallel where she feels insecure that she wasn't as good as Susan, you know, which can be evident with the other two films, but yeah, it just kind of bewildered me a bit. So yeah, in this instance, yeah, it just looks like the film just simplified that part. Anyway, in the film, Ramandu's daughter is a star, not half star as is named. Her father never appears in the film. Oh, okay. I thought it was like yeah, what did I think it was like the magician bloke? What did I think it was? I don't know. But yeah, once again, it just helps improvise story, lowers the budget by not having yet another character. So, yeah, I like the simplification. I'm quite curious about a role in the book, especially if her and Caspian do get together. So, yeah, in the book, Lily Nandible's dressed is blue, whilst in the film, her dress is white. Oh, that's her name. Okay. Through colour of her starlit glow is blue, as she is a blue star. So those are a couple of differences, but I like how she looks. Well, she was very pretty, but just like the way she like glows blue, it was, it does make her stand out. I wonder who the actress is. Anyway, Lillian Dill says that the three lords were put to sleep because they were half mad and threatening violence upon each other when they arrived on the island, and violence is not permitted at Aslan's table. Yes, that's in a quote. Whereas in the book, they slept because one of them took the stone knife and they were not meant to touch it. The witch's knife is not given any further explanation in the book or film. Oh, okay, so both the book and film were just like, nah, and just leave it very blunt, which is. I don't remember the witch's knife though. Did we like only see like a brief glimpse? But because one of them said, "Oh, it's Aslan's knife," so was that what that means then? But if that was like the blade that the witch used, then how did it get there? Okay. So yeah, they both have. Oh, I don't know how they were put to sleep in the first place. Yeah, who did it? I don't know. It looks like the book almost has a simplified explanation by touching the touching the knife, which or a blade, which that leads to the freezing. But in this film, they're just somehow put under a spell. Was that Aslan's doing? The magician's doing? Did the stars do it? Yeah, that part's a bit unclear. Yeah, never mind. It's fine. In the book, Caspian flirts with Lillian Dill by referencing Sleeping Beauty. In the film, he states in the formal manner that she is the most beautiful woman he has ever seen. I don't think he went that far. He only just said she looked nice and that, just keep it, not go too far. Yeah, definitely not that far. So that's where the website's a bit wrong. So the book had a pop culture reference, which, because it is because it looks like Narnia is like every interpretation of Earth almost, with like all of the mythology and all of the Earth creatures, and there's other things that follow through. There's a lot of things that are very similar to Earth, like the books and swords and jam is a thing in their world. If you remember from the Beavers, so and Miss Thomas had an umbrella and so it wasn't like it's not like the most alien world, but for the book to drop in that pop culture reference, it's something I find a bit odd about it because Sleeping Beauty would have been written by an Earth author of some kind. Well, on our planet, but what about Narnia? It just makes Narnia sound like the multiverse almost, which I guess it's kind of cool to see it that way, but. Yeah, so it looks like the film knew where to keep a lid on almost. Hang on. Okay, sorry. In the book, Caspian was forbidden by Aslan to sail to the world's end. Okay, why? I'm not sure, but the film doesn't address that. It's treated as the end goal, which once again makes things simpler in the film. In the book, Aslan appears to Eustace at Dragon's Island once, at Deathwater Island, and to Lucy at Corrigan's Island. In the film, he only appears in World's End outside a dream, implying that the dream must somehow prevented his communication with them. What? Oh yeah, so the somehow part makes so even whoever was writing this was a bit unsure. But is that true? For Green Mist was scooting around when Lucy's getting tempted, and then Aslan managed to appear in the dream then, if that's how it worked that way. But that's not a line explained in the film. Oh, okay. I didn't get that impression of much at all, really. And not to mention, looks like in the book he was definitely more prominent from time to time, which I guess the film likes and provide it, but it, I don't know if it would have been kind of interesting for him to come in and out and maybe like teach a couple lessons to Edmund and Lucy. You know, like the dream sequence, maybe Aslan could have done something like that a tad more with like any of the characters. That could be kind of cool, but I think it just depends on the placement and the etc. Because when I was a kid, I used to just like him at a point where I wanted to keep watching him, but just looking back, there is still plenty more to be entertained and engaged with. Um, so yeah, the film just keeps us rolling in a very simple manner. Anyway, 4 points left. In the film, Eustace and Jill Pole are already friends, as Jill is mentioned to be visiting Eustace at the end of the film. Okay, oh, Jill is a friend. Okay. Huh, I see. I thought she was like a family member, because I did read the subtitle. Jill is not mentioned in the book, but in its sequel, The Silver Chair, initially they were not friends and only knew each other by surname. In fact, Jill loafed Eustace for following the gang of bullies at their school before he changed. Okay, so that's interesting. So that confirms the theory that Eustace, he didn't just come back on his own. He, would have had another companion. Maybe they would have seen Caspian again. Because I remember reading or just seeing the snippet that Caspian becomes like a lot older in either of the later books. But yeah, for the Voyage, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, that's kind of a tricky title, isn't it? Yeah, to get that mention at the end. So it would have like foreshadowed it if making another one, but very unlikely. But yeah, it's almost like an Easter egg. I quite like it. And if you learn a bit about the following book, which is quite interesting. Anyway, near the end of the book, Lucy sees the sea people in the water, whilst in the movie they were replaced by nades. No, I don't know what nades are. Naiads, if that's how to spell it. Yeah, I don't understand that. Let's move on. There is no seven swords in the book, so that is a film invention, and it's the film's own partial quest, which I kind of like. Because it was just like something that needed to be completed to help defeat the evils. So it's just very straightforward. That I do like. And last one, the White Witch does not appear in the book, just mentioned by Lucy in respect of the stone knife. But her addition in the film, despite being minimal, has quite a bit of interesting bits and bobs with Edmund being tempted in that. Okay, that was the film and TV comparisons. Film and book comparisons. Sorry, you can definitely tell it's late. But let's conclude the film. So I thought I was just enjoying like the spectacle and the humour and the action, because when people like talk, I've heard people talk about this film, calling it like the weakest one, and people being like, oh, Eustace was cool, but we can see why the trilogy ended, and I agreed with like the latter two. But when you watch the film, it is very like easy to follow. It's very efficient. It's quite quick, and because in the previous two films there's a hefty amount of setup before the action gets going, but in this one, it's probably the briefest time on Earth. Just helps hint at a couple of bits and bobs, and then the adventurers already there, and they're already on a singular quest. And granted that we do learn more about the quest, but it's already started thanks to the swords, and the swords have more relevance later on, which you could call that coincidence, but it's it just helps build up the story later on. So I really like that. A lot of music that's quite memorable. I feel like a lot more music stick in my head in this one, I think. Oh, well, the first film has a lot of that too. So I quite like that. And um, there are some cool shots. I think it is a bit VFX heavy at times. Well, no, not a problem, because I really like VFX. There was VFX in very reasonable times, and like I said, those making the film were smart to make the production as small as possible in a couple of cases. And so it did feel like CGI was definitely needed from time to time. And because like I said, while it was disappointed to only just see just mostly humans on the ship, I guess it's understandable from that perspective. I just wonder if the book was like that. Did a lot of humans want to go sailing, and the other races were just like, no, we're just sticking on land, thank you. I wonder what that was like. Um, from that part, it's fine. Anyway, so on to the film, so a lot of really cool shots, and I feel like the camera work was a tad more inventive from time to time, especially like the shadow revealing and that, so I think it was a bit more creative with the camera work, and despite having a different look, it's something I quite like. Like the look of the film, it's quite glimmering with the sea and the sense of adventure, something which it kind of captures rather well. You just don't think Narnia would suit a sea adventure, but it's strange it works. Because I know Assassin's Creed Black Flag is a bit mixed compared to the others, but I think that too also kind of does well with mixing what was established and then turning that into like a sea themed version. I think like sticking to the time period as well helped that as well. So that kind of mixture I quite like. But not to mention, I do admit a bias that I do really like sea and water based things. I think it's just something nostalgic about it when I go on holiday, etc. And costumes was rather good, makeup was good. VFX, a couple of bits and bobs like with Ripper Cheap and the dragon, but VFX is definitely it's just very selective at times. So I think that was all fine. A lot of it's quite convincing. I think the weakest thing, however, was those water creatures. The transparent ones. I was saying hello to Lucy twice. I don't think they hold it very well, but never mind. I like the transparency, how it still kind of matches with the water, so I'll say that. And the world build is a lot more simple. So I did get puzzled about Aslan being absent again from time to time, but I think what I assume, with Caspian being, like he was like ruling the fortress or the land he was around in, in the previous film, and so for him to go on this quest to bring like a sense of order all around, even if that's like my inference, it's like the best inference I can say throughout the entire film. So it's a pretty cool premise, and we get to explore all sorts of lands and the lore. We do learn a couple of things. Definitely nothing contradictory. Like, granted, there are like some things left unexplained, but nothing being like that's contradictory. It's just a lot of it was just the film's just its own invention. But when you like think of all of it all together, I can't really see the Green Mist like matching with the first two films. I'll say that, but it's still some interesting ideas regardless. And I guess because the first two films were definitely like sticking to like the familiar locations. The second one especially carrying over from the first, and so to explore these other islands, it is kind of unfamiliar, but you kind of get that in a way. And I just felt like I enjoy just understand a bit more of what's going on in the and the premise at first glance. Yeah, a bit more, so I'll say that. And I guess it's on to the characters, which, yeah, I think this is the smallest cast, and you know, and I feel like with the main characters being a lot smaller, that's where it is kind of easy to see which one. Well, I think all the three kids are in their own way, in ways that are a bit more far distinct, because in the first two films, their screen time varies, well, except for Peter, constantly being in the forefront in the second film, which was a good choice. But in this time, the focus kind of remains on all three of them, and there's no subplots in any way, also, which I guess keeps things neater as well. I suppose you could say that Caspian goes on an arc as well, which, yeah, I suppose that's kind of impressive. Although we'll start small and then go gradually bigger. So, I explained about the extra sailor and the daughter. They have enough personality, a bit of a role, something else for the characters to focus on. Lucy becomes quite protective of her, just like how she used to be protective. So it adds other aspects like that as well. So yeah, their involvement, maybe small, but definitely adds up in some way. And then I like, a lot of the crew members, they have a lot of personality, even if they don't have an awful lot of lines. And then the captain, I like how he's like quite stern, and the debate was quite interesting at the storm. And yeah, I like the moments when he catches the orange, and also to offer it as well. So yeah, he definitely has enough personality. I definitely can remember him. He's almost like the definitive sea traveling character, especially when we've seen the others, at land and that. So yeah, he's rather cool. And in the mine tour, he just has some funny lines and some cool moments of action too. And Rupert Cheapy, I do kind of prefer in this film. He has a lot of roles and lines and comedic moments, and his final scene was definitely quite emotional in some way. I just felt like that was earned. And and his adventure with Eustace is I really like how that what the arc of that almost, the progression of it, it's a lot of bits and bobs I like. And it's enough progression which I can see it making sense and see the flow of, because because in some cases I just think of, could have we've added another event to go from A to B in that way, but I don't feel like that at all. I just feel like all the building blocks were there some way. Pretty much as like the entirety of Eustace arc, which I'll get to in a bit. And then there's the one-legged creatures. I've got who they were. Like I said, they were goofy, and I guess it suits the tone and adds a tad bit more world building. Not my most favourite characters, but an okay addition, I suppose. I like the actors for them. I'll say that. They've done the creatures quite well. And I guess it shows off what one creature, what a one-legged creature will be like. So it does kind of explore that. The magician was, I like the way he was explaining certain bits and bobs. It sounds like he knew what he was talking about. So I like that. I do quite like characters like that. They are almost all-knowing, almost like a second source aside from Aslan, I suppose. So that was a neat addition. All the lords vary in personality. And like I said already, like the first one, just like a proper good lord. And then I'll say that. And because that side of the law is quite interesting. He kind of expanded more on the Caspian side of things in his family tree, and I say family tree, but just what they used to get involved with, and what that kind of side of royalty was like. So that exploration I quite like. It could, I guess you could wonder, what did each lord do, but I just feel like if you try and explain that, I think that would overstuff the film, because if you're already on the sea adventure trying to learn these bits and bobs, I think it would be probably a bit too much to be like, oh, this is what each specific lord was like and how they were splintered off, and they probably had like their own different goals, etc. But I don't need that. Yeah, so I think they're all fine as they are. And yeah, the sea serpent was just menacing, a very tricky fight. And yeah, I like him. The design was also kind of spooky in some ways as well. So yeah, well done for that. And I'll also say that I really like the ship design as well. You can definitely see how it functions, and it's nice and big enough, and you get to explore various functions of it. So there's that. I know the ship isn't a character, but it's worth saying. I guess you could say it's like a character in itself. Any vehicle or specific setting can be. If it's given enough personality, to which it has. And yeah, I think all of the background characters, probably including like Eustace's parents as well. They have their moments. All of them did well. Oh yeah, the action I really like. I really like the that fight scene was like extremely cool. I do like it. Because they get to proper show off. I think it's almost like the only time they kind of do. There is like a couple of sword bits and bobs later on, and then they fight a massive creature later on. So yeah, it feels a lot smaller in scale in that regard. But from what I've seen, yeah, I think that the little segments are all right, and how they fight the creature later on. They do think of practical ways and etc. So yeah, I didn't really see any problems there as far as I can see. Well, I guess you could say, why didn't the serpent, go for the men or keep rolling? So there are like those kind of questions. I'll say that, which I guess makes it like a slightly weaker climax compared to the other two. But I think personally, I just found these grand armies like far more interesting. But even then, fighting large creatures in groups and seeing how to deal with the situation, that is also cool in its own way. So yeah, yeah, and how it progressed as well. It didn't feel too dragged and too long. It did vary from time to time. So yeah, and um, sorry, yeah, my phone would have buzzed again, wouldn't it? So just wondering who else was in the film. I like the star. Yeah, she was cool. Even if she was there briefly. Yeah, she was like very easy listening as well. So yeah, I'll say that. And yeah, Aslan still has his personality, and I kind of really like his lines. Like the finality of them in the way. Um, it almost like creates like a really nice sense of goodbye with that specific character. When he says, you'll always be around in some way. Yeah, something quite nice about it. So yeah, it's really good last scene from him, and has the cool roars, and when the way it helps Eustace out, and you guide Lucy the right way at one point. So yeah, his role is, I do have a couple of questions, but at least I understand this one a bit more compared to the last film. In the last film, I could have been overthinking it, but oh well. And yeah, I think we're on to the main five, I suppose. So yeah, I've already talked about Riptide, haven't I? He's very cool. And I feel like Caspian hasn't had like a lot of scenes dedicated to heavy arcs over time, but I think the film just only gives him enough to work with. Like I said, it is it's him, wondering how to continue the kind of royalty, with the trip, and he still has like a sense of doubt, and Aslam reassures him once again, but in a different way. And even Caspian, denied going to the country to, well, because the thought it wasn't good enough, which I felt like maybe the film could have started off with him being like, oh, I definitely want to go there, only to deny it. I felt like that could have helped with his progression a bit, even if he had like a smaller arc compared to the other characters. And um, and I guess Rupert could have also. Oh no, we already know how anticipated he was, so at least that too makes sense. So yeah, does that mean like Rooster Teeth's probably like the second or first best character in the film? Like that's possible. Um, but yeah, there's other bits of obviously learn about Caspian, like you see what his father was like, and his father might have doubted him as well, so that's something. And Caspian's a pretty cool speech, and he definitely knows how to lead the army. He definitely continues to be a skilled fighter. He's a lot more looser as well. He's already found his place to help like the area as well. So he's like definitely more developed in that sense. And yeah, I feel like he did show off a bit more personality. He seemed to be more jovial and um, yeah, definitely, but yeah, a bit more likable in this film. And yeah, the rivalry between him and Edmund is kind of cut short, although I think in ways that's kind of reasonable because they peak with the temptation part, but yeah, they do. Um, I think they just get on just like. Oh, I know there was the scene where they trade sword in that, so that finalizes them to get on. So even if it's small, it kind of flows in its own way as well. So yeah, it was a cool addition, and yeah, I've already talked about being kind of puzzled with Lucy's story, but that she does have a moment she like shooting the bow and defending Gale, and she almost she feels like less of a first person perspective compared to the other films. Um, but yeah, once again, she likes to observe. She's curious, and the way she tries to spell book is so I guess something she does. There is definitely like a sense of, oh yeah, she's more involved in the action. Of course she is. Yeah, so they're due to so much more mature character here, and but yeah, she's yeah, definitely not on the forefront for a lot of it. But I feel like that's like a bit more consistent because I feel like Eustace and Edmund have a bit more on the forefront from time to time, which I suppose keeps it consistent. But um, yeah, but yeah, if I have to be honest, I do prefer her roles in the previous two films. I do like I said, how she was almost like the innocent, naive one. But yeah, it's just got a couple of cases where like I said, a bit puzzled by the arc at first, despite what it tries to attempt and how it tried to make it relevant to the story. And I feel like her acting is a tad weaker here. I can see where some people are coming from, and the same could be said of Edmund, but they still try from time to time. Absolutely, I still like the actors and the characters quite a bit still, despite my improvements for them. Um, So yeah, I think that's all I've got to say about her. I feel like she's more in the background. Yeah, Edmund definitely. Oh, I don't know. I feel like Edmund is a because there's like certain bits built up. He's a better fighter, and he kind of gets jealous of Caspian leading, and he continues to be proactive and practical, especially with the torch. Yeah, the torch is back, and yeah, a lot of the time he observes and comments, and um, yeah, the witch thing kind of puzzled me because he, I guess it could be like a case of fear, but just trying to turn that into, I guess it's like Edmund's turned, just almost like another go of Edmund being tempted to be a ruler, but I feel like that was far better explored in the first film because as a youngster he was getting manipulated in all sorts of ways, and he sees how he was tricked and how he kind of learned to be proactive in his own right. But in this film, it's just like every now and again, and yeah. And if it is like both like fear and temptation, this mist, then I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I think I can imagine if like the serpent kind of was that instead of like bringing the white witch in, because I kind of like struggle to put those together because you would because being undivined is one thing, I can understand that, but to be tempted to be a ruler again, I just felt like he was over it. So it's like stepping on slightly familiar ground, and the greed thing, I guess, could have been like bit more of a through line to stick with, but after the cave scene, and that's not really touched upon. Well, I guess he refused the sword at first, only to be given it. So I don't know, but and also the kind of the greed thing. I think that's only represented in that one scene because I like his introductory scene where he tries to join the army and being like, oh, I wish I was like more active and purposeful on Earth as I was in Narnia. I just felt like that wasn't really expanded upon, despite being kind of cool. And I suppose it shows that he kind of misses Narnia, but in the end, he's had his adventures and is ready to settle. I don't know how he got to that point though. So yeah, I think with how much I'm talking about him, he has all of these like little ideas sprinkled on, and they're not put together in a way that's always coherent. Because even the way he succeeds, and like when looking at his final lines, especially what he says to Lucy, and it gets on with Eustace at least. That's something. Although they don't really spend an awful lot of time with each other, especially during the dragon form. Edmund once again just observes. You just would have seen what Eustace is called. Oh, and actually no, Edmund did comment on Edmund did comment on Eustace's idea to pull the ship despite no wind. So there was that. At least. But yeah, I feel like it was a mix of ideas there. I suppose it's Edmund overcoming like his final flaws, but I suppose like the second film didn't really give him any flaws for him to work on. But yeah, I'm just kind of puzzled, especially compared to Eustace. So he definitely had a far more consistent through line. He was a very cynical person at first. He was like, oh, all of this fantasy is nonsense, and then it continues to be annoyed by the others, especially Ripper Cheap, and then when he's turned into a dragon, it's almost like what he disliked is what he personified almost, and then he kind of learns to accept the form despite how temporary it is, and he improvises a lot. And he was also like really smart, because he was trying to communicate with the sailors. So yeah, he didn't do anything contradictory, and and there is like a vulnerability do you see of him from time to time. He teared up a bit in his dragon form, and then when Riptide went, and and Eustace was kind of cowardly from time to time, but then he gained his fear and he fought the serpent, which was probably my favourite bit in the battle. And the way Riptide at least tried to help, it was really cool. And he became the one who almost pretty much saves the day alongside Edmund. So it's almost like they're working together in some way, although Eustace didn't really talk about the sword side of things. He only talked about how he came back as a human, which is nice, but I suppose they do, like, you can infer that they talked about that, but I think it would have been nice to actually address it. So yeah, like looking through because I remember when I was younger, I used to find him like a bit annoying, but nowadays, he's just funny about how cartoonishly cynical he is, and then, but when he does like become a person that's actually changed for very reasonable reasons. I'm always want to say he's like the best written character in the entire trilogy. I just feel like I can see his through line like extremely clearly and say, yes, that makes sense. Yes, I understand. Yes, I can see the building blocks building up all the way through. Like I think like I said, Rupert Cheap seems to be consistent in. I guess he was in the previous film, but definitely in this one as well. And I suppose Peter did have an interesting through line, and even has been in the previous film. But I just feel like in this film the building blocks are a bit more blatant, and he could say that maybe it is just me only seeing things very simply, but I don't know. I just feel the change, and it seems to be very genuine, and that. So, yeah. So yeah, I think that's what. I think I'll finish that off. Yeah, he's definitely very cool, and and I think this is where we'll end the entire trilogy. So. The commentary. So as I said in the previous a couple of times, I do hope a TV show or whatever, brings this show back, I think it could be quite a good opportunity, because even though his Dark Materials wasn't like, I guess he was kind of big amongst industry TV, but it doesn't wasn't talked about much. I've heard like a lot of criticisms of maybe like a couple of inaccuracies, but at least it does give us a complete story, and especially one that's very fully detailed, definitely in line with the books as far as I can see. It definitely in comparison to the film, so I definitely would like Narnia to be given that full treatment. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good time as well, because well, I suppose Cobra Kai's coming back in and out a couple of times, but there isn't really much else to look forward to, because a lot of people have been constantly disappointed by the ongoing franchises at the moment, or when they come back only to kind of not quite get us, or when some original ideas also don't quite make it there. I feel like if done well, if we could definitely bring Narnia back into the limelight again, I think they really deserve it, because if like a new set of creators, for instance, are like like, yes, it was abstract, but let's at least make sure to make things a bit more clearer this time. So if they have that kind of mindset, if my criticisms are are true, do some questions actually need some answers. So yeah, if they have that kind of mindset, yeah, I think we could go really far. Not only make things make sense, but make a lot of the character through lines and the world building, far more understandable. See what kind of narrative they can really form across all of those 7 books. Yeah, and yeah, even if we already see characters go in and out, I can still see that being possible. And yeah, so yeah, how do I rank Dawn Treader? Is this the best of the trilogy, even though it's like very different and stands out? Um, I don't know, like Lion Witch and Wardrobe, I can see why that is like iconic in how it stands out, and Briz Caspian's like the cool, edgy one, and edgy in very reasonable ways, and I just like that premise the best also, and like the mature side of things. I'm really stuck with this one. And like, I suppose Dawn Treader having like Eustace's arc and that, and everything else just being like, I can just see how things are working. I know it's a bit more simplified, but I'm actually kind of stuck. I think it probably has the least problems, I think, compared to the other two, because I think I was head scratching the least there. So yeah, the trilogy, does have a lot of times where it could be clearer, and a lot of writing moments that could have been clearer too. But it is just I think a trilogy that I think should be revisited, reevaluated, see what they think of it, and then once those kind of thoughts come up, that's where we could have like that TV show finally, or maybe films. I don't know, just depends on the budget. You would have to make it extremely small. But like, you should see the TV movies back in the 60s and 70s, how extremely small they were. Yeah, I felt like watching them. I remember the White Witch being ever so over the top, and how a weapon was tiny, and how the beaver was actually a bloke in a costume, and Aslan was like a puppet of some kind. Um, yeah, and just really lacking in presence. Although I think it was good at the time, I would say. So yeah, I don't to belittle it. If you're wondering, I saw it in school from time to time when I was year 2. That would make me 7, 6 or 7. So, good gosh, or even nearly 8. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this trilogy alongside with me, whether you used to watch them before, or if you just watch them now and you just aren't wondering, are these overrated? Do they deserve to stay under the radar? Do they need a new treatment? Do they need to be do they deserve the recognition? Well, I think some answers are yes. It is just like a very standout world, which it does have like some quite unique elements, especially for because we've had a load of films about kids exploring, but I just feel like this one still stands out, because just entering a wardrobe and going to a whole new world is there's something like really grand and interesting about it. So yeah, it was, I have a lot of fun and that. Yeah, probably one of my favourite trilogies subjectively. Yeah, it's just because of a lot of nostalgia and that, but I do, you clearly have seen that I've tried to watch this almost as like a third time viewer, and I still get impressed with things. Some things I do get puzzled about, but yeah. Anyway, I think we're just going in circles. Yeah, I just hope you have fun, and we'll end it right there. I do recommend this film. See what other people think. Let's bring this trilogy back into the limelight in some way. All right, see ya.